Welcome to Pop Chat. My name is Annette Tarpley. I'm the founder of The Passion of Poetry. And today with me, I have Lennart Lundh. Welcome, Lennart. Wonderful to have you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So, we are going to learn about you. I always have everyone send their bio, but what I usually do instead is give the stage to you and have you introduce yourself and divulge whatever information you would like about yourself. Um, you know, Poetry, writing, family, whatever it is that you would like us to know. So I'm going to give the stage to you and you can tell us a little bit more about you.
Okay, sounds good. My usual bio is something like 17 words. Uh, I am a poet, photographer, historian, and short fictionist. My work has appeared internationally since 1965. Beyond that, uh, married to my high school sweetheart for 55 years. We've got three daughters, all of whom are middle-aged now. Youngest just turned 50. Six grandchildren and a great-granddaughter. Uh, I'm retired from day jobs. Being 75, I have that luxury. And so I devote my time to creative projects. Uh, and that's really probably the most critical information. Where I've been published, how often, and so on. Uh, is nice and it's possibly interesting, but in terms of what we're going to talk about and what I might read today, none of that matters.
Oh, okay. Well, you probably have had some big publishers, I suppose, that have published your work.
Uh, Big small presses, yeah. Kelsey Books out of Utah. Karen has accepted a third collection from me.
Wow.
That'll be out sometime next year. Uh, Writing nights in Cleveland before the publisher moved to China, put out a number of chapbooks and collections for me. Like I say, the bigger small presses,
Yeah.
obviously not a Random House and stuff like that. No, not for poetry.
Yeah, I know. Poetry, we kind of take a back seat very often, don't we? So tell
Yeah,
me, how old were you when you first started writing?
I was a sophomore in high school, so I would have been 16.
Okay, great. And is there anyone else in your family that writes poetry?
No,
No, you're it.
no, I am the sole creative body. One of the daughters is a photographer when she gets the opportunity. Uh, One of the grandsons is a very along with having played French horn for the Chicago Youth Symphony. But
Wow.
we're scattered about in our tastes and our interests. I'm the writer.
Yeah.
My wife is a painter.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice. Have you ever written anything about her paintings? Written a poem about a painting of hers?
No, I haven't. As a matter of fact, uh,
Yeah.
generally her work is portraits, and it's portraits of family members.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So is she very supportive of your work?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Good.
always has been.
You really need that, don't you? When you write, you
Uh
need someone to really support you.
yeah, yeah. At the very minimum, you need somebody who's not critical of what you've chosen to do with your time. But yeah, the support uh, is phenomenal and fundamental.
Do you think writing is your passion?
It's one of my passions. The other being photography
Nice.
and and art in general. Much of my poetry has turned into ekphrastic poetry over the years. Uh,
Yeah.
you know,
So do you have any of your photography that you could share with us?
Nothing that I can share off of my iPhone, which is how I'm coming to you.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So I currently have a one-man person show going at the library in Orland Park, the next suburb over from us. But yeah, since I'm tied to the iPhone for this,
Yeah.
can't hear anything.
That's okay. That's okay. We will just mull on. So I want you to go ahead. I'm excited to listen to your works. So sometimes when I have people on here, that are referred to me, and you were referred with you know lots of adoration. So I really would like a lot of times to go into it cold. Never
Mm,
having been, I'm still, my virgin years as far as your poetry is concerned. So because I have usually the wow and surprise factor that I deal with, so
sure.
I'm
Yeah.
excited for that. So go ahead and share a piece with us. I'm excited to hear you.
Okay. Go with a prose poem for starters. Jazz me. Start me deep with jungle rhythms and sugar cane, and soils containing languages we'll learn to soon discard. Give me baptism by fires in the darkest of the night, and then escape with me, while our others wallow, while our others follow missionary tracts and black motes noted on white sheets. We will fix on fusion. We will find the star stuff in each free improvisation. I will riff your body with my fingers, bring forth emanations with my lips, while you pluck counter notes and melodies to see us off this stage, beyond percussive endings, deep in God.
Very nice.
Thank
Love
you.
that. Love that. So you said prose. So you do a mixture of you change up your styles. You
Yeah,
there.
I do free verse, I do prose, I do some of the Japanese short forms. It's pretty much after 60 some years, it's pretty much what the poem wants to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is there a certain subject matter that you feel yourself more compelled to write on?
Well, my two overarching themes are love and war, and I've been through both.
Yeah,
Uh, as a third one, the end of the world, whether it's a big world or a small world, is always a very personal, lonely place.
yeah,
Yeah,
indeed. Yeah, yeah.
those are the major themes.
Very good. Well, those are two big ones. We have a couple comments. We'll take a look at those. Greg Etzel is here. Thank you, Greg, for being here. And someone said, agree with what let the poem lead you, so to
Yeah.
speak. So I think that's great. Um, whoever you are out there, please always sign your comments so we know who you are. Otherwise, you're just a Facebook user. So we'd love to know who you are. Thank you for your comments. So, do you find that when you do you title all of your poems?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's important. It's a big pet peeve of mine. But do you title it before or after most of the time? Or
Probably about 50-50.
yeah, yeah,
Sometimes it's a phrase that becomes the title that suggests the poem. Sometimes I'm comfortably done with the poem and trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to call this? So, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So actually asked you to do a little thing that I've been doing the poets lately, and that is I ask the poet who's coming on to come up with a title, and
Hmm.
then we will both write on it. So mine's very short. I want you to start with yours, though, if you would.
Okay. The title was From 44,000 Feet, which is where I was yesterday afternoon on the way back to Chicago from San Diego. There's so much nowhere there. Down there where the earth is muted, a gathering of browns, raised and broken, hollowed, flattened, so flattened like dough, flour dough for cookies on a countertop in the wake of a rolling pin, again and again. There must be somewhere down there, somewhere the scratch mark roads think worth going to or looking for, until they go and look oh so long, get weary of the long, long nowhere, and simply end in some more nothing, broken by the shadows of clouds mimicking water ghosts on the nowhere. And still, you sit beside me, looking, looking down at nowhere and nothing, making the passing of time and land into somewhere, into something rare.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
Love that.
Thank you.
Now I took a little different spot. At first, it stumped me, as often they do. But let me see if I can trying to read it off of my computer. So mine from 44,000 feet. In close proximity to the analysis of life, clarity is often lost. Too near to the truth to decipher reality. Change is often needed, yet we ignore the blatant messages that continually knock at our door. Constant failure in one realm is a message that it is time to explore a new dimension. Look at your life from 44,000 feet, where truths and reality are seen with insightfulness, not able to be viewed when within close proximity. Those things of the past that proved to be obstacles no longer need to haunt the mind with wasted time and energy. It is time to evolve and to embrace the dreams leading to your destiny of probabilities that will transition into your new reality. Your purpose and destiny within the dreams of your conscience that now will metamorphosize into the fruition of a life that you deserve. Journey into the celestial realm of a 24 or 44,000 feet and embrace the destiny that you deserve. All right, that's what I came up with.
Excellent. Yeah.
Well, it's quite meaningful to me in my life right now. So you kind of took me there. So thank you for that. It's so interesting to find where it can lead us for different things as far as titles. And I recently just had one of our admins start a new concept that I came up with for contest for our members, where we solicit the artwork of members,
Mm-hmm.
and then we use those for picture prompts. And I thought then we can show the talents, in two different
Yeah.
areas. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really great. So let me see what we have. Somebody said they love the last line, deep God, deep God. And then so much nowhere there. Totally awesome poem. They're speaking of yours. And wow, I wish I could write like that. Yes, indeed. Um, and Sheila is here. Sheila is here. Sherry. I see a partnership of words here. And then beautiful. So thank you very much. If you could all remember to please identify who you are and by signing your comments, that would be wonderful. So do you feel like being a good writer, being a stellar writer, a cut above the rest, do you think that's a gift or do you think it's learned?
Both. Primarily a gift. I actually started writing when I was 4 years old. Little 4-year-old short stories and things like that. I mean, it was just there. I was a storyteller. My mother once told me that we were at the butcher's on a Saturday morning when I was 3 years old, and I had the entire staff and customers that were sitting around waiting to get their orders just had them at stitches with the story I was telling. I was 3, so I don't even remember it. But so yeah, I think there's a gift involved. Can we learn it? Yeah. Uh, the risk there is that we learn somebody else's voice rather than our own.
Yeah.
Uh,
And when you say that, it's funny because I've been very strange about poetry in that I don't read a lot of it. And the reason why is because I don't want to become tainted. I want to, you know what I mean? I know
mhm,
that sounds weird, and I need to start reading more poetry, but I kind of don't want to adopt anyone else's, and I change my stuff up in my way. I'm usually a rhymer for the most part. I do a lot
okay.
of rhyming. Um, some people say, "Oh, that's out of vogue" or something. I don't think any type of or style of
No,
poetry should ever be out of vogue.
no.
But yeah, do rhyming also?
Very seldom. Very seldom. Uh,
Yeah,
I have trouble writing or reading a rhyming poem without getting myself lost in the meter and so on. So
yeah,
I tend to go with essentially a conversation with the listener or the reader. Uh,
yeah,
the thing about having our own voice, uh, my experience from watching my peers and other people is that most of us spend a lot of time copying voices before we figure out which one is ours. And one of my 2 mentors uh, brought me up short in senior year of high school and said, quit trying to be Bob Dylan and quit trying to be Walt Whitman. Find your own voice.
there you go.
And
Yeah,
that was the advice I needed to, to go from the sophomoric poetry that I was literally writing as a sophomore to stuff that I was writing once I was in college.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, do you feel like the Lennart that was existed a long time ago, 30, 40 years ago, is that the same one that exists now, or have you evolved?
Both as a person and as a writer, yeah, I've evolved. I've evolved.
Yeah.
Uh,
So do you find that voice has changed maybe in the content that you in which you write?
to some degree, yeah, yeah. Um, the level of experience with life that I have at 75 as opposed to when I was 25, 35, whatever,
Yeah.
uh, causes a different perspective in a lot of ways, if only because of the burden of that history. Burden's probably not quite the right word, but the volume of that history that I have to give my brain guidance when I'm writing.
Do you think that there should be any constraints on what a poet or writer writes?
No, no. I think every one of us has our own reason for writing, whether we know what that reason is or not, whether we
Right.
even care what that reason is or not. We have our own methods. We all, uh, regardless of what point we're at, we all have a unique voice.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have unique styles that interest us. I'm one of those people who I'm always very supportive of creative community involved. And
Yeah.
part of that supportiveness is never criticizing somebody else's work.
Yeah. I believe that's why I started my website.
Yeah.
My poetry site is because I got somebody critiqued my poem and I didn't like it. So out of spite, I created it. Fine, I'll just create my own site where that isn't allowed, and negativity isn't allowed.
Hmm.
So, and I don't know why we're one of the biggest ones out there, and I'm not sure why. But I'm happy that people don't like the site, I guess. But
That's not to say that my wife and I, after a reading, don't sit around and discuss the people we heard and so on. But
right,
but I will never publicly demean anybody because it's their choices
yeah, yeah, it
just as
is.
much as my choices. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I don't, there's not going to be poetry we all, all poetry we're not going to love. We each has something that draws it to it. But yeah, to criticize, I think encouragement is much better than criticism. So
Respect.
exactly,
Yeah.
respect. Yes, that indeed is true. So go ahead and share another piece with us if you would, sir.
Okay. An ekphrastic free verse piece after a 1957 photograph titled Cellist by Robert Doisneau. One day, soon perhaps, or later, I will sit at the edge of the mountain and make music and write a song and paint the rising crag and gather words into a poem. You will be with me, and you will wonder at their order, and you will climb despite your fears, and you will sing a delicate echo, and you will dance in perfect time. I will see you there, in the shadow of the jumbled stone from a distant vantage, from memories you leave in the warm hold of my heart, so that if I am alone, I still will not be lonely.
I'm Forgive me. I unmuted myself and then coughed. How rude. That was lovely.
Thank
You're right. Your poetry is really quite lovely. I really like it a lot. You know, it it lends your voice. Um, do you do you use imagery a lot in your poetry?
you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I do in my everyday conversations. And for me, the poetry is often no different from a conversation.
Yeah. Because I would imagine you as a photographer would really be able to, you have that eye, you have that for photography. I think
Mm.
that would spill over into,
Oh,
your poetry.
it does. The historian, the short fictionist, the poet, and the photographer, uh, all floating around inside my head, inform each other,
Yeah, I would
shape
imagine.
each. It's yeah, they interlock.
Yeah. Has there ever been anything that you've taken a picture of, you've written a story about it?
Actually, no, I really haven't. All of my ekphrastic work is things that I've stumbled upon somewhere at some time that triggered a response, triggered a few words or a line or an idea. Uh, my photography is it's a different conversation from my poetry. A lot of what I photograph is found objects, abandoned objects,
Yeah.
places that we see every day of the week as we drive by them and we never notice them.
Yeah.
Photograph up in your face, say, here, see what you missed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So but really, some of the things that you mentioned that you're photographing are things that do have a story. Really, kind of
oh,
fun.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can remember I met a photographer once, and he has some kind of award-winning photographer, and I was not very nice actually, because everybody was showing me was somebody, the CEO of this, the president of that.
Hmm.
He was like naming names.
Yeah.
Somehow that irritated me a little bit, and so what I said to him was this: I said, "So, do you have a picture of a homeless person telling their story, so to speak?" And that really, of course, annoyed him. I irritated him, and that was
Sure. Yeah.
yeah. But I guess I was trying to say to him, it doesn't matter, that those people have titles, photograph things that, you know what I mean? You know what I mean.
Hmm.
I don't need to explain it to you.
Oh,
But
yeah.
but he wanted to impress me and it wasn't impressive. I guess it would have been more impressive if he did show me a picture of a homeless person, that had a story behind it, that type of thing. So um, really don't care about people's titles in life. To me, it's the person, regardless of where they come from in life, is important. All of them are important. So,
Uh, there was a venue that I went to once, and we'll never go back to. The host and I were talking, and the host said to me, "Where do you have your MFA from?" And I said, "I don't have an MFA. I'm an MA in history." And they turned around and walked away. I
wow.
said, "Well, obviously, I don't belong here." you know,
And that's exactly the type of
yeah,
thing that I don't like.
exactly what you're saying. Yeah,
I don't have any degree in literature, right? You know,
yeah. I've never had a writing class. I mean,
I don't have any either.
I graduated high school in '66. They still weren't giving writing classes in Chicago area high schools in '66, let
Yeah.
alone the years before that. No, it wasn't there. The poetry I was taught was Shakespeare, John Donne, and fairy tales, and ended with Robert Frost.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is there a poet that you tend to favor more than others, or poets?
Well, there are several poets, and all of them were in one way or another seminal in my being a poet. Uh, Sophomore year of high school, I was number one in the class of 400 something, and they couldn't figure out why I should sit for an hour in study hall. So they gave me a year long, no questions asked pass to the library for that hour. And one day, there was a brand new, not even unwrapped copy of Carl Sandburg's Honey and Salt, which had just come out. And I sat down and I read that, and I said, that beats the crap out of Shakespeare and Donne and so on. This is poetry that I can relate to. And Richard Brodigan, the Beats, um, Larry Levis. Larry Levis had a wonderful poem that I sometimes misremember, but as best as I can recite it. I love you like an old man loves a wound picked up in a razor fight on a street nobody remembers. Look at him. Even in the dark, he touches it gently.
Right,
You know,
right. Yeah,
there's so
yeah,
much power there.
yeah.
Uh,
My favorite poem is Desiderata
yeah.
by
Although,
Max Ehrman, written in 1927.
yeah.
It has a
Although
lot of.
I've been affected by the National Lampoon Deteriorata version of that.
I
so,
said, did they mess the poem up? Did they?
they turned it on its head. Yeah.
I
Look.
don't ever. I don't think I want to see that. I would be. Yeah, that would bother me
Yeah.
probably. I've quoted a piece of it to many, many people.
Hmm.
Um, because I do psychiatry and stuff, but there's a piece in there that says, "But do not distress yourself with dark imaginings.
Yes.
Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness, and beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You're a
Hmm.
child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here." So yeah, so it has some. Yeah, I don't want to hear the lampoons thing. I think it would mess me up. I didn't realize anybody kind of made fun of his stuff. I guess, but
It's well, it's not so much making fun of it as they took the world and before they looked at the poem, they turned it 45 degrees and then spoke what they saw. I mean, National Lampoon was famous for satire and so on,
right, right,
but
yeah,
they were also very capable of a more gentle, looking from a different perspective sort of thing.
yeah, yeah. So I guess they did that to it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I love them both. Uh, And I've got that free association type of sense of humor in my head, so uh, I take it for what it is. I,
Yeah.
I love the original
Yeah.
without reservation.
Yeah. Um, I think, did she say that born artistic poetic touch absolutely grow as we go? And then we have, and that's Sherry Healy is her real name. And Vince Valdez from Canada said, very nice of your last poem. And I love Carl Sandburg. Um, did he write poetry? Hey, what's Michelangelo, the famous painter,
Hmm.
also a poet, right?
Yeah, I
Was
believe.
that a female or a male? I thought it was a male, and someone said the other day a female, and that confused me. So now
No, Michelangelo was female, or male rather. No, you got me doing it. No, he was a male.
I thought so too. And someone said about something about being a female, and I was like, Michelangelo, female? This is the first
No,
I've heard of that. Yeah, so I didn't look it up. I've never heard it being a.
yeah. Um,
Love The Stockyard by Carl Sandburg. I'm not familiar with that. Are you?
I've read Sandberg so many times over that it's sometimes hard to remember just which poem was which. Uh,
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him at all. Maybe I should look up some of his stuff. Um, so I ask this question to all people who come on here, and that is this: tomorrow you run across Aladdin's lamp, and you're granted three wishes. Anything you can wish for doesn't have to be poetic. It can be anything, selfish, whatever it is. What would you ask for?
World peace, um, a long and happy life for the woman I'm married to, and strangely enough, if I'm going to die, I want it to be like turning off a light switch would be my
Boom.
wish.
Fine. Yeah.
No suffering, no dragging on. I saw both of my parents go through that, and nah, just flip the switch. That'd be fine.
Yeah, it would be nice if we could choose how we were going to die. Yeah, I understand. I understand that because I've seen many of
top,
my loved ones suffer. Yeah.
top of the head, those would probably be the first three things. Yeah.
So one thing I want to ask you, because I've never found the secret to it, is I always envy and admire and very envious of people who have had long-lasting, great marriages. So I want you to tell me what the secret is.
We forgive each other. We recognize the fallible human being each other, and we both recognize all the good things that we have been for each other, and that we would not have had if we weren't.
Yeah.
That has been a fairy tale wedding marriage thing. Of course not.
Yeah.
Uh, Neither one of us is perfect. It goes back to being that human thing. We just had a week in San Diego where one or two times we came to blows over trying to figure out the directions to where we were going because we didn't remember from 50 years ago when we lived there how to get where we were going. And something that really pissed the kids off when they were growing up. And even though my youngest daughter is 50, all three of them are still the kids. Okay. Uh,
Right.
Lynn and I would have a shouting match, and it would last about 5-10 seconds. And that was it. And the kids would always say, "You're not doing that right. You're supposed to fight for hours and be mad at each other forever and ever, like my friends' parents are." I said, "Well, then go live with your friends' parents." Um,
Yeah.
yeah, we have always been forgiving of each
That's good. That's good. You have to, otherwise, resentment and hostility builds up. That's
other. Oh
not
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Each of us is our own worst critic,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
rather than being the other person's worst critic.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Go ahead and share another piece with us. I'd love to hear some more of your
Hey,
wonderful work.
yeah, let's see what we got here. There's a woman playing fiddle among the wildflowers at the top of the hill. Tunes the older players taught when they were her connection to the past, when she was their way of saving it. Melodies she heard on the radio late at night as the beams traveled endlessly from cities she'll never see. Patterns of notes born in her mind, hers to teach to others when the time comes, theirs with luck to pass on in turn. So, no, she is not a woman playing fiddle. She's a fiddler, all fiddlers, all in one. She and the fiddle are one. There's a young boy standing close to her, rising to her waist, staring my way with mistrust, eyes calculating what future I might be bringing with me to this sanctuary in the rolling, climbing forest. He could be her son, a younger brother, or a village ward, down to pretend to ignore my arrival as her way to reassure him. Perhaps she'll change her tune. Perhaps she'll weave a new one. Perhaps she'll start to sing a love song or sad song or one and the same. They can be. And maybe she'll wave to me, sit among the flowers while she dances her fiddler's dance, her mother or sister's reel. And maybe she'll gesture with becoming smile for me to pick up my guitar and play with her, click my heels and dance with her. Maybe it's like hard string, easy. So many maybes we neither know yet.
Nice, 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 nice. So, so I'm thinking the whole time that you're doing that because do you play the guitar?
I tried to, but no.
Um, um, my dad played bluegrass, so I was thinking about his fiddler and
Yeah,
he played the guitar, but that was in Iowa, where the bluegrass mecca of the world.
there you go. The inspiration for that piece was a 1970 something National Geographic photo of a woman and a young boy standing on a hilltop somewhere in the Adirondacks, and she's playing fiddle. That was
Nice,
that was the total scope of the trigger.
nice, nice. So right behind you is a painting. Did your wife paint that?
No, that was picked up. That was at an estate sale, as I remember.
Yeah, it's a beautiful painting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, it's honestly basically just a $20 Bed Bath and Beyond painting,
yeah,
but it is beautiful, and that's hanging on the,
yeah,
the dining room wall. It's nice. Yeah.
yeah. It's beautiful. I love it. I like art too. I'm not too much of an artist. I'm crafty and creative, but I'm trying to do some. Maybe I'll try to do that tonight. I try to do some pour painting sometimes. Where
Okay.
you pour it
Yeah.
because I figure it's. I mean, it's abstract art. How bad can I mess that up, right? I made this one, and it was it. There's part of it that just kind of always reminded me of a virus. I don't know why. My grandson actually took both of those little paintings. He's like, "Oh, I really like this, Grandma." I was like, "Here, go take them. It's
Yeah.
fine."
You might.
Um, so there's. Do you feel like there's poetry in about everything in life? Do you think there's poetry in everything?
In a couple of ways. There is there is poetry to be written in almost any situation,
Yeah.
and there is also a rhythm to life. Okay. Uh, the difference between prose and a prose poem is the rhythm of the prose poem. Uh, Patricia McKillop, the late fantasy science fiction writer, uh, her prose was so lyrical, carried so much rhythm in it, without being ostentatious. I think she still got the right word in the right place at the right time. That she was living on a borderline between prose and prose poetry. Uh, there's that rhythm in poetry that is a rhythm in life too. It's not always an even rhythm. It's not always a comfortable rhythm. It's the pilot has turned on the seatbelt sign kind of rhythm sometimes.
Yeah.
Other times it's a hold me as close as you can kind of rhythm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's always there.
Yeah.
And I think for the good times and for the bad times and for self-catharsis and whatever else people write for, they're tapping into that rhythm.
Yeah. Yeah. I do a lot of fictionalized stuff, storytelling sometimes, but
Mm-hmm.
and I don't really believe no, I know people are taught metered, just perfect. You have to have whatever, whatever. And my philosophy is, no, you don't. It's poetry. You're the master of it. You're behind it. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
So, so I don't like the I don't like rules. I'm a little bit of a rebel, I guess.
good idea.
Yeah, a little bit of a rebel. You say I have to do this. Now, one thing I did learn though, in my ignorance, I once wrote a poem, called it a sonnet, not knowing that sonnet had so many lines, and they do. And somebody was correcting me, saying, "Well, yours only has this so many. It's supposed to have. Is it 14 lines? It's supposed to have. I can't remember
Yeah.
now.
I think
But is it 14?
I think so.
Yeah. So I was corrected and I felt really bad. So forever that will stay in my mind, and I would never call anything a sonnet. Would didn't have that. But we have some more comments. We have how far up did we go? Okay. So we have definitely a man. That's from Joan. We must be talking about Michelangelo. So I don't know why somebody was saying a girl the other day. I was like, share. You share that your poetry is conversation. They love that. And please sign your stuff so we know who you are. Lovely poem, lovely program. Well done. That. Thank you very much. And wonderful interview. Thank you, Lennart, for your sincerity, thoughtfulness, humility, and beautiful poetry. Indeed, indeed. And nice and lovely, beautiful poem, sir. Thank you for sharing. And it says that you mentioned Sandberg earlier, and while his writing is not like Sandberg in structure or in rhyme, is the same concise, compactness of thought, the same clear evolution from starting lines to his concluding thoughts. Nice. I like that. Nice comment.
I like that comparison.
Yeah, that is, yeah, it's very good. Beautiful, thoughtful conversations, a superb poet and observer. Congratulations. All right. Very good. Thank you very much for your mentions. What do you think that we can do? It's my feeling that poetry is really not on the forefront in the literary world anymore. That our society doesn't appreciate poetry, especially the younger generation. I ask people every day that I encounter people, do you like poetry? And 80% of them say, no, not really. And I think a lot of it's ignorance. There's poetry in a lot of things that they hear that they aren't even aware of. There's poetry in music. Everybody likes music. So, what do you think that we can do to change society and to put more of the spotlight on poetry?
I think what's really stalling us is that the people who say they don't like poetry um, have at best been exposed to a very, very narrow definition of what poetry can be. Um,
Yeah.
it hasn't happened the last couple of years because of the pandemic, but here in Chicago, um, a number of us during National Poetry Month would stand out on a street corner where we were at a given time on a day on a given day that we all agreed on, and somebody would be up in Logan Square, and somebody down in Morgan Park, and me out in the suburbs. We would stand wherever we were, and we would read a poem out loud.
I love that.
You know,
I love
and we would get people who said, "That poetry? It doesn't rhyme. How can that be poetry?" My
right.
my father said that the first time he read one of my collections. He said, "This isn't poetry. It doesn't rhyme."
Right. Right.
Okay, guess what?
Yeah.
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 Uh, and we have to. We don't throw it in people's faces that we're poets, but we let it be known that we're poets. Because the people who really like us and who respect us as people see poetry different if they tie us to it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of little things. I don't know how much poetry is being taught in schools nowadays.
Yeah.
Uh, my great granddaughter is in fifth grade and
Yeah.
can't be taught much of it.
And I think that that's part of it. Is it isn't so much. I wrote a poem that I made into a children's book, and it's called "The Bird and the Dragonfly." It talks about diversity, and I had my then 8-year-old grandson help me rewrite it, and went and put the words past him to make sure it was very children friendly.
Well, yeah.
So I actually listed him as my co-author on the cover. But I went into his school and gave away about 200 books and read that, and then made them listen to my kind of signature poem, "The Ballad of Ned," which is about bullying. So, just
Yeah.
wanted, yeah,
Yeah. We've got people like Kai Kogan, who's the host of Wednesday Night Poetry out of Little Rock, Arkansas. Uh, she's in third and fourth grade classes constantly as part of what she considers her job in foster.
yeah,
Um, Mary Ann Teft, who you interviewed last time around, as a Montessori teacher, she is exposing things that are not on the school. Got a dog back there?
yes, I do, with the squeaky toy. That never hardly plays with them, but apparently wants to everyone to know that she's here somewhere.
That's cool.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah,
our,
yeah,
our,
I
our,
know that
our,
we talked about it, Marianne and I,
yeah,
and she has done some stuff with it. I So when I went to the school and did that, there's a couple of poems. My twin grandsons, the brothers of the other one that was the author, so to speak, was then complained. They wanted something, so both gave me a title of a poem, and then I wrote a poem about both of them. And then I actually had Alan Johnson make them into videos. I think the one is called like "The Owl and the Moon," and then there's "And the Birds Fly Away," and the birds fly away. And so I made these videos, and but those would be good. And she talked initially, the principal, maybe I need to readdress that, about maybe showing some of the poetry like that in school, which would be good.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You know, you capture one person's attention at a time.
yeah,
You know,
that's
if
true. That's true.
you got 30 kids in the classroom and one of them stops to think seriously about what poetry can do, that's a win. That's,
Yeah,
I've got a box up on top of the uh, case where we keep our personal computer in what we call the office, uh, and it's for that great granddaughter. It's all of my books. so that when she turns 16 and the subjects are more appropriate for a teenager, exposure, even though it's just from one point of view, perhaps as a poet, but I think it will lead her to other things.
Sorry,
There
telling
you
my dog to be quiet. Had muted myself because she started barking. Um, what do? You can talk to them ahead of time. They don't pay attention.
Oh yeah.
Do you have
Our
do you have pets?
we haven't brought our dogs back from boarding yet, since we just flew in last night. So we'll
Oh,
wait till tomorrow to pick them up from the friends who are taking care of them this weekend.
yeah.
Right now it's blissfully quiet. We have Great Pyrenees, which are flock guardian dogs, and will bark at anything just for the sake of barking.
Is it strange because when I was recently looking, I got a puppy recently. It's a mutt. I only spent like $150 on it, but there was a huge amount of Great Pyrenees that were out there, like puppies. So I figured they must be very popular or something, but they're huge dogs.
They
So
can be, yeah.
yeah. So what's popular about that breed, do you suppose?
They are a very intelligent, very uh, self-monitoring breed. They love being outdoors. At the same time, they're very affectionate with their owners. Before we picked up these two Pyrenees as rescues, we had Bernese Mountain Dogs for like 25, 30 years. Also a large breed. And again, the loyalty to the people, the bond that they form is just, you know, Thursday nights, I drive my wife to bingo, and I come back and she's not with me. And the dogs are kind of like, did you forget something? And when I go pick her up, I'm back, like she's been gone forever.
Yeah,
Want to
that's
crowd around her. Yeah, it's they're
dogs.
good people.
Yeah, the unconditional love of dogs.
Oh yeah,
Animals are interesting anyway. I've been watching a lot of videos, I think, that pop up on maybe Facebook, and there's this one about this deer. I mean, it's a video. It shows the deer standing in the road. Well, it's like it's trying to get the person's attention, and so the person decides to follow the deer and follows it quite a ways away, like 10 minutes, and then finally the deer leads it to its little baby that's caught up in this net.
okay.
And so the guy releases the baby. And then it shows this very sweet little last thing where the little fawn or whatever gets down on, kind of bows down on its knees, goes up to the guy, bows down on its knees, and then just lays down and lets him pet his head. Have you seen this? It's so sweet.
I've seen similar. Yeah, it really is. Sweet is a very good word for it. Yeah,
Yeah, there's poetry in that too, right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Go ahead and share a couple. We're going to wrap it up. It's getting kind of towards the end, but if you would share two more of your pieces with us, that would be wonderful.
I will share. The first one is my post bucket list poem. It's the piece that I would like to be remembered for 100 years from now, if I'm remembered for anything. Elegy. Dig the small grave and place the smaller body so, just so. The chill May rain and the warm human tears falling on her head will serve for the ritual washing of this pup, barely 2 days old. Some future digger after truth, alien or human, kneeling with trowel and brush at this grave, will note in clear, careful script the wonder that a people would be so deliberate with the smallest of their God's creatures and so careless of themselves. And one other to close then. Um, I served in Vietnam in 1968 and 1969. I was discharged as a conscientious objector about a year after that. My oldest grandson spent a tour of duty in Afghanistan. Uh, he drove a mine roller truck at the head of the convoys and he got blown up 4 times. Physically, he's fine. Uh, he was never injured. The vehicles were well built for their job. But this applies to both him and me. Mother and child. When you were 1, we spent the day at Disneyland. Your mother, my uncle, and I took turns watching you in your stroller from ride to ride. That night in your crib, you gazed wide-eyed for an hour, digesting, I guess, what you'd seen, and then smiled sweetly in your sleep. You won't remember, but we speak of it still. It's early in the 5th decade since that day. Your son is back from his war, just as I was from mine. His gaze across the dinner table is hooded, distant. I hope when he's a father, he'll dream of wondrous times. And fear when he's a grandfather, he'll scratch at hidden scars and remember his bodies at the end of the day. And I thank you for the conversation.
Oh, it's beautiful works. Thank you so much. You're a wonderful, wonderful writer, and
Thank
I'm sure your works will live well into history. So I think that's, and I've written quite a bit about that. That I think that's important for us as writers, isn't it? That our works won't be
you.
forgotten once we are gone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I, I really don't care if anybody remembers that I wrote it, but I would really like for somebody to be familiar with it and enjoy it.
Yeah. I always say my kids really could care less about my stuff now, but I think, someday they'll say, "Oh, wow, Mom Moore wrote this, this is good."
Yeah,
So
our daughters are big supporters.
your kids are big supporters of your work.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. That's wonderful. Someday maybe mine will be. I'm just mom.
There are times when I'm just dad too.
I'm sure. So we have a great conversation.
Yeah,
Happy listening to you. Ah, in St. Martin. Okay. So we know who that is, right? That should
probably.
be
Yeah.
Mary Ann, right? Maybe?
Hey.
Yeah. And then we have nice and lovely poems, sir. And so careless with themselves. Not sure what they're talking about there.
They're talking about the final line of that elegy.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Lennart. Thank you, Annette. Beautiful conversation. Thank you so much, Joan. And it's been a pure pleasure to have you here today and to listen to your wonderful poetry. And, to me, it just is, I'm in awe with the longevity of your poetry career and your writing career and how long you've written and how much you've produced and keep gracing us with those works. It's been marvelous to meet you and happy writing to you in the future, dear sir.
And thank you. You as well.
Thank
You as
you.
well.
So, love and blessings to everyone. Thanks for watching us. Um, Again, it's been a pleasure, sir, and I'm so glad that Marianne told me about you. So, and hi, Christian Romero Diaz says greetings from Chile. So, um, y'all take care. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.